This young man had been hard at it with his girlfriend, when everything suddenly went dark. When he came to, he had turned into a mushroom. In that awkward situation, Duong-Quinn could only blurt out 3 words, "God damn it." He tried to recall what had happened before, seeming to think he'd overexerted himself, had a fatal climax, and then his soul had transmigrated here and become a mushroom. This was truly over the top, turned into this thing. How could he ever pick up girls again? Damn it, give me back my handsome face now. Duong-Quinn threw his head back and yelled. Just then he heard a timid voice calling from behind. "Hey, Mr. Mushroom." A vague figure emerged from the cave. At first Duong-Quinn thought it was a beauty and got excited. His eyes lit up, but he immediately deflated when he realized it was just another small mushroom, not a beauty. "Why are you mushrooms saying such weird things today?" Duong-Quinn sighed inwardly, so his desires had clouded his eyes just now. He asked again, "What's wrong? What do I normally say?" "We mushrooms usually only say intruder, pick you all off, or ah." Hearing the little mushroom state this so seriously, Duong-Quinn gaped. What the hell is she talking about? Before he could ask, another voice rang out behind him, much louder, "Intruder." Following that came a series of footsteps, and 2 strangers appeared, one after the other. Judging by their fierce looks, they didn't seem like good people. They were a beastman archer and a beastman warrior, level 1. The tall one in front was called Capo, the woman behind was Labu. "Capo, just the 2 of us, no healer, are we okay?" "Relax, Labu, the monsters in this underground area are the lowest level and they're very stupid. Their lines and actions follow fixed patterns." As Capo replied, a masked level 1 little mushroom suddenly charged aggressively. He swung the stone mace in his hand and with a single strike felled that little mushroom. Just as he said, the underground monsters were indeed stupid. Their lines and actions followed fixed patterns. Seeing that, Labu felt much more at ease, thinking the 2 of them could clear this quickly. After taking down 1 little mushroom, dozens more with the same appearance rushed in, all shouting the same lines. Capo showed no mercy and opened a bloody slaughter. Duong-Quinn and the little mushroom girl watched from the side. He found it strange and asked, "This is wrong. Why do you mushrooms just charge recklessly like that? If you can't win, can't you at least run away?" "We mushrooms are NPCs. What we can do is preset. We don't have the freedom that players do." Hearing NPCs and players, Duong-Quinn was even more surprised. "Don't tell me you transmigrated into a game. And the 2 beastmen who appeared, are they players too? I thought players were usually human." Faced with Duong-Quinn's rapid questions, the little mushroom girl was a bit flustered. "I'm just an NPC who explains a few extra lines. I don't know that much." As they were talking, an arrow flew from afar, almost hitting them both. Duong-Quinn looked out and saw that Labu had attacked them. He immediately turned to run, among the 36 stratagems, fleeing is best. But after a few steps, Duong-Quinn didn't see little mushroom following him. He had to turn back. "What are you standing there for? Run." "We mushrooms are preset so we can't flee," she replied. Hearing that, Duong-Quinn reached out and told her to give him her hand. He wanted to pull little mushroom to run, but the moment he grabbed her hand, dozens of bright red warning windows popped up reading, "Abnormal data detected." Duong-Quinn didn't care about preset settings or abnormal data. He kept using his strength to drag little mushroom to run. Isn't survival more important right now than worrying about those damn settings? Capo and Labu immediately sensed something was wrong. After all, this was the first time they'd seen a mushroom know how to flee. Both agreed there must be a bug and they'd have to return to file an incident report to the admins. Regardless of whether there's a bug, they weren't going to let the 2 mushrooms slip away. "I'll go out and report the bug first. Don't die here," Capo said. "Ridiculous, how could I die?" Meanwhile, Duong-Quinn had dragged little mushroom into a corner. He asked if she had any usable weapon, but she just shook her head because mushrooms here were preset to fight unarmed. Duong-Quinn sighed, another preset. But his eyes suddenly lit up when he bumped into a chest. Isn't it in games that every time you find a treasure chest you can open it for a weapon or item? Little Mushroom said this chest was designed specifically for players. And since mushrooms couldn't beat it, they weren't allowed to open chests. Duong-Quinn ignored that and placed his hand on the chest. Just like before, a stream of abnormal data notifications arrived, but he paid them no mind and pushed the chest lid open. Little Mushroom was even more surprised because the person in front of her had never acted so strangely. Wow, Duongquin's voice suddenly rose. There's quite a lot of good stuff in here. While he was busy rummaging in the chest, another arrow flew in. Mushrooms weren't preset to save allies. But miraculously, at the critical moment, Little Mushroom dashed out. Labu's arrow pierced her body, filling Duongquin with horror. But then a second arrow came speeding in like a bullet. This time, however, he managed to block it. From above, Labu saw this and was both surprised and furious, grinding her teeth. She couldn't understand why a lowest-level mushroom monster could block her arrow, and even open a treasure chest that only players could open. If this really is a bug, then it's a huge one. Capo had gone out to report the bug to support staff. He wondered why the underground city, running for so long, still had bugs. The reply was that because it had been running so long, maintenance couldn't avoid oversights. Various minor bugs occurring was normal. After defeating the United Human Tribe, Great Vu feared idle warriors would cause trouble, so he designed this underground fortress system for them to use as entertainment. Then heroes as players enter to fight monsters, grind, and level up, the main purpose being to kill time. If players find a bug, they report it to Master Tu Lin Vu, the manager, and wait for them to come fix it. However, after witnessing a serious bug originating from Duongquin, Labu decided not to wait for anyone and would fix it herself. Her way of fixing the bug was fairly violent. She continued firing arrows at Duongquin. This time, instead of taking the hit head-on, he quickly dodged slightly to the right. Even Duongquin felt that the basic physique of the mushroom he transmigrated into was pretty decent. Otherwise, his movements wouldn't be this nimble now. Labu didn't give up, continuously launching dozens of arrows at him. The most handy weapon Duongquin found in the chest was a knife. Thanks to that knife, he parried arrow after arrow from the enemy, but with these short legs, closing the distance while repeatedly blocking was far from easy. He looked back into the chest, wanting to see if there was something better to stop the arrows. An idea flashed through his mind. Duongquin chopped off the hinge, removed the chest lid from the body of the chest, and then used it like a shield to block the incoming arrows. Labu was even more astonished. If this was a bug, it was unreal. These actions were clearly too smart for a low-level mushroom monster, even somewhat like a player. With the shield, Duongquin could both block attacks and steadily close the gap between him and Labu. Finally, after a volley of arrows, but before she could knock a new one, Duongquin suddenly threw the shield aside and rushed in. The knife in his hand sliced along Labu's body, and in a single strike he completely defeated her. After that unexpected feat, a status window appeared before Duongquin with a long message. Congratulations on achieving your first feat. You have unlocked the Mushroom Race Talent, Mycelial Network. It connects you to mushroom soldiers via the Mycelial Network to exchange information, spores, and to share skills and experience points. When experience is full, you can level up. You have also unlocked the Mushroom Racial Talent. You can plant yourself or your allies onto enemy corpses or other nutrient-rich locations to absorb nutrients and restore health. After fully absorbing, you will gain access to the enemy's classes and skills. Mushroom Form Shift. You can switch between mushroom form and regenerative form. Duongquin read the notification until his head swam. Did he just get the golden touch? Having transmigrated into a mushroom, getting a system didn't seem so strange. Duongquin immediately activated the planting skill. He stepped onto Labu's corpse and immediately felt a surge of energy flow into him. The sensation was truly ecstatic. While he was enjoying the feeling of absorbing nutrients from an enemy, Duongquin suddenly remembered Little Mushroom still lying flat down there. She had just taken an arrow for him. Now he should repay her by saving her. This time Duongquin activated the planting skill on Little Mushroom, and the effect was even better. It seemed that because she absorbed so many nutrients, her body began to regenerate toward a human form, until the youthful female form stood before Duongquin. He finally realized how amazing this system was. Blood sprayed involuntarily from his nose. Little Mushroom had now turned into a great beauty. Instead of being a common NPC as before, she had become a level 2 mushroom archer. Now she could also siphon nutrients from enemies through mycelial threads. During that self-recovery process, she could absorb special skills in the enemy's racial talents. This mushroom archer specialized in long-range attacks, able to shoot spores onto enemies, and while the opponent was unaware, absorbed those nutrients to convert into herself. Little Mushroom stepped closer to Duong-Quinn, then knelt respectfully and said, "Your subordinate salutes the leader. Please give me a name." The system also reminded Duong-Quinn that he had just recruited his first mushroom subordinate and needed to name her quickly. Normally, mushroom monsters were nameless, so now that she had become human, a name made sense. After thinking for a moment, he came up with the name Rebirth Phoenix, meaning Phoenix Reborn. Rebirth Phoenix nodded, then asked, "Which dungeon shall we tackle next, sir?" "What dungeon?" Duong-Quinn replied. "Don't forget we're monsters, we're NPCs. Our immediate priority is to eliminate the remaining players." Labu was quickly drained of all nutrients. When Kappa returned, she had already become a white skeleton. He couldn't believe his teammate had been killed by those trash mushroom monsters. Ordinary mushrooms couldn't do something like that. So Kappa concluded that a rare elite had appeared among the mushroom tribe. That thought excited him even more. He'd gone all the way here, facing a rare elite to test his strength sounded good. If he defeated it, he might even loot green gear and make a tidy sum. With that in mind, Kapu charged forward with high spirits. Duong-Quinn had been waiting for him. The knife in his hand was still ready. As the opponent rushed in, he timed his chance, slashed with the knife, and dodged to the side. Kapu was wounded, but it was only a small cut on his thigh, proving he's a tougher warrior compared to the archer Labu earlier. One slash from Duong-Quinn only drew a bit of his blood. On the other hand, seeing himself wounded by a mushroom he always looked down on, Kapu became extremely furious. But at that moment, Duong-Quinn had already turned and fled. He ran through a wooden door and slammed it shut. Kapu didn't think much. He rammed the door and gave chase. Outside was a wooden bridge system over the river, and Duong-Quinn now stood in the middle of the bridge like a dummy. Why is it just standing there instead of running on? Kapu thought. Feels like a trap, but after all, it's just an NPC. At that moment, Duong-Quinn suddenly raised his middle finger. Seeing a lowly NPC dare to mock him made Kapu even angrier. He would chop him into 100 pieces and then ferment them into mushroom paste. But the moment Kapu set foot on it, the bridge began to tremble violently. He raised the axe in his hand, ready to split Duong-Quinn in two. But before he could bring the weapon down, the bridge collapsed. Just as he'd feared earlier, Duong-Quinn had set a trap for him. Kapu plunged into the water, swallowed a mouthful of river water before resurfacing, and began cursing, "You cowardly mushroom monster, how dare you play me?" Duong-Quinn saw that in his panic he had dropped his weapon, and movement was also restricted in the water. He threw the knife in his hand at him. The weapon stuck cleanly into Kapu's shoulder, but it couldn't finish him off. Instead, it only made him more smug. "HMPH, even without a weapon and with limited movement, what can your pathetic strength do to me?" But before he had finished laughing, at that moment a precise arrow flew through his neck. Blood gushed from Kapu's mouth, metallic and hot. He was still alive and angrily turned toward the source of the arrow, cursing. Then another arrow was loosed. This one pierced his forehead, instantly ending Kapu's life. The one who produced that miraculous effect was none other than Rebirth Phoenix. Kapu's body was hauled out of the river. This time it was finally Duong-Quinn's turn to absorb nutrients from him. Like Rebirth Phoenix, after receiving enough nutrients, he returned to human form. This was perhaps the happiest moment Duong-Quinn had experienced since transmigrating. He smiled so broadly he couldn't close his mouth, until he heard Rebirth Phoenix say, "Leader, there's something glowing down there." Duong-Quinn was startled and hurriedly looked down. Hearing her, he half expected that when he shifted form he was no longer wearing pants. It turned out to be the axe Capo had left behind. Unlike Rebirth Phoenix, who absorbed life from the archer, Duong-Quinn absorbed nutrients from a warrior. Thus he gained the talent Berserk Beastkin. Its effect is plus 30% damage for 20 seconds, 5-minute cooldown, specialized in melee. His planting skill was also upgraded. Now Duong-Quinn can separate spores from his body and plant them on enemies or other sources to create mindless mushroom soldiers. These soldiers share experience with him and can be grafted onto other mushroom soldiers. He can currently summon 2 mushroom soldiers. Duongquan also received other loot, notably 2 magic pouches that compressed to hold various weapons and items. Now that he was human again, Duongquan began to think about escaping. Rebirth Phoenix said this was the lowest level of the underground fortress. To get out, they had to fight through each floor. Hearing that, he became more curious. Then why can a level 1 beastkin player enter here directly? Players have special privileges and can choose to enter the lowest floor, but we NPCs cannot, Rebirth Phoenix replied. She knew this because when she was still an NPC, she'd overheard players talking about it. If there was no other way, then they'd have to challenge each floor one by one. Having made that decision, Duongquan moved at once. At a fork with 2 paths, Rebirth Phoenix said the left led to the slime floor, while the right led to the graveyard. After a moment's thought, Duongquan told Rebirth Phoenix to take the slime floor for experience while he would check out the graveyard. She asked in wonder, "What's worth seeing in a graveyard?" "It's a graveyard now, but later it will be our home," he replied, then hurried ahead. Along the way, Duongquan picked up a set of ragged clothes and was no longer forced to go shirtless. From afar, he smelled a distinctive odor, the stench of corpses, truly a graveyard. Trash or bodies likely fallen from the pit above Duongquan. He had entered the center of the graveyard. Although those unlucky ones had been thrown here long ago, there were still some usable remnants. For example, a mixture of leftover gunpowder and humus. Or a residue of tar, even a tattered spellbook. Aside from Rebirth Phoenix, Duongquan could now plant one more mushroom soldier. So he implanted spores onto a piece of explosive, turning it into a mushroom with a head like a ball of fire. The system named it Blaze Fungus Level 2, its primary attribute being fire. Blaze Fungus had 2 skills. First, Flame Devour Shot fired an explosive projectile that burst into fire upon hitting an enemy, using the flames to consume the foe's body and absorb nutrients. The second skill, Blazing Dash, borrows the power of fire to boost movement speed, increasing movement by 50%. Duongquan nodded, thinking Blaze Fungus's abilities were pretty good, only its size was a bit small. He stepped forward to take a closer look, when unexpectedly a bolt of lightning shot in from nowhere to ambush them. Duongquan instinctively jumped back, narrowly escaping. The attacker that struck him then slowly came into view. It was the Electro Snail, Lord of the Graveyard, a monster that resembled a snail. Feeding on humus, it would be a direct competitor in the same ecosystem as the mushrooms. Duongquan had no intention of standing still. This was the perfect moment to test Blaze Fungus's strength. Blaze Fungus charged forward and activated its Flame Devour Shot, firing a cluster of explosive projectiles straight at the Electro Snail. The projectile hit its target and immediately exploded with a bang, creating a great blaze that swallowed the graveyard lord's body. However, after the shock subsided, the snail was still very much alive, and it even counterattacked fiercely. Its electric strikes were even more powerful than Blaze Fungus's fire. On Duongquan's side, his mushroom soldier continued using the second skill, Blazing Dash. After exchanging blows for a while, he realized the snail's movement was very slow, a weakness that could be thoroughly exploited. Plans to deal with it began forming in Duongquan's mind. This time Blaze Fungus hurled its whole body forward, striking the head in a close-range flanking attack. The explosion sent the Electro Snail flying into a corner. Its body was heavily damaged, even its shell was shattered. It looked like it wasn't alive anymore. Blaze Fungus was ecstatic, continuously waving at its master. Duongquan said, "Stop, go check whether the enemy is truly dead." If he were cowardly, that would have been true, because just after he spoke, the crackle of electricity sounded again. An electric surge sliced Blaze Fungus's head off. It turned out the snail not only hadn't died, but had discarded its shell. Duongquan had to take action himself. But he missed because after shedding its shell, the Electro Snail had become much faster. After evading his strike, it even tried to ambush him from behind. Yet Duongquan, as leader of the Mushroom Tribe and having absorbed Capo's melee talent and taken his weapon, was no easy target. They clashed wildly, but Duongquan still couldn't land a hit and was even mocked by the Electro Snail, slow as a snail. He was furious. This monster was clearly the real snail. and after shedding its shell it became as fast as lightning. Yet it still mocked him as a snail. No wonder you're lighter without hauling your house around. He looked up and saw the electro-snail weaving a web of electricity, apparently trying to entrap Duongquin. But at that moment his blaze fungus also resurrected, unleashing several fire shots in succession. The electro-snail showed no fear of those attacks. It leaped into the air, easily escaping, chuckling loudly. "Ha ha, you can't hit me, still can't hit me." Blaze Fungus's fireballs slammed into the rock wall, while the snail remained unharmed. It doubled over laughing and pointed at Duongquin, taunting, "Ha ha ha, our speeds are clearly on different levels, you keep missing." Seeing a slimy snail speak like a human and laugh in such a grotesque way gave Duongquin the chills. He wasn't shy to tell it that those attacks weren't misses, they simply weren't aimed at it. At that moment, a series of noises came from above. The electro-snail looked up and saw rocks continuously falling. Aiming for the cavern ceiling to make it collapse, it muttered. The electric current reactivated, as if the snail wanted to use its power to smash all those large rock masses. However, Duongquin had no intention of letting that happen. Before the electro-snail finished charging its skill, he launched forward using Berserk Beastkin and Beastkin Charge. Moreover, during the approach, Duongquin used smoke to conceal his movements, and had Blaze Fungus provoke the electro-snail from another direction. In this way, its judgment was severely impaired. By the time it realized what was really happening, Duongquin had already struck it. "Damn, I didn't expect another ambush hidden inside the ambush. You're dirty," it roared. Duongquin shoved it hard into the wall with tremendous force. When it was over, the electro-snail's body had been smashed into a bloody pulp, its original form unrecognizable. The system notified that Duongquin had completely destroyed the electro-snail and could begin absorbing nutrients by implanting spores. It seemed Rebirth Phoenix was doing well too, since Duongquin received a notification that both she and he had reached level 3. Duongquin can now raise 3 mushroom soldiers. He also learned a new skill called Spiritual Fungification. It allows him to transform mushroom soldiers connected to his mycelial network into spirit fungi, enabling them to recover faster when absorbing nutrients and become stronger in combat. After defeating the electro-snail, Duongquin successfully cultivated a new warrior fungus called the electric fungus. Its primary attribute is of course electricity. This new warrior moves extremely fast and can convert absorbed nutrients into electrical energy as its power. Its main attack is to discharge electric shocks to neutralize foes. The electric fungus appeared in a majestic form. Both it and Blaze Fungus were now spiritualized, brimming with momentum. Duongquin ordered the two of them to clear out the graveyard. From now on, this would be the Mushroom Tribe's headquarters. Once finished, he began to worry about Rebirth Phoenix, since it had been a while since he'd last seen an experience notification. Could she be facing a tough opponent? At the same time, in the slime den, the little slimes had all been handled by Rebirth Phoenix. This, of course, would force the boss to stick its head out, but Rebirth Phoenix was level 3 while the Slime Queen was only level 2, so the fight didn't seem too difficult. "So you're the one who used my little brothers as target practice." The Slime Queen opened its mouth and an arrow from Rebirth Phoenix pierced straight through its head. It was furious, feeling she was rude for attacking before it finished speaking. Instantly, the boss spat a stream of sticky goo at her, trying to drown Rebirth Phoenix in the slime. But her body was extremely agile. Rebirth Phoenix leapt high, not a drop touching her. At the same time, she fired 3 more arrows, all piercing the Slime Queen's head, yet it still remained alive. "Ha, no matter how many arrows you shoot me with, it's useless." Its body was half liquid, half solid, seemingly without internal organs, so arrows passing through caused no problem. This time, the boss counterattacked with a punch. She was mid-jump and couldn't evade, taking the full blow. The Slime Queen benevolently explained to Rebirth Phoenix that its body differed from its minions. It could stretch, so her attacks would only damage a bit of its slime. As long as the Slime Queen continuously replenished groundwater, Rebirth Phoenix's physical attacks would be entirely pointless. "Die," it said, and swung its arm to throw another punch. But halfway through, The Slime Queen's arm suddenly burst apart into droplets of slime. It was utterly baffled, wondering why its body was collapsing like this. Only then did the Slime Queen realize mushrooms had started growing on its body. Their numbers increasing, even sucking dry the groundwater beneath the soil. Groundwater was its power. Once drained, there was no chance to counterattack. It seemed the arrows Rebirth Phoenix fired had spores on them from the start. But by the time the Slime Queen noticed, it was already too late. Rebirth Phoenix didn't even bother to attack further. She stood still and watched the boss collapse. Its body completely dissolved, leaving behind only a horn. The system noted this horn came from a tough, tanky player of uncertain fate, extremely hard. Even the Slime Queen couldn't digest it, so it had remained attached. It could be used to craft weapons, so Rebirth Phoenix stored it in her magic pouch. Next, she absorbed all the boss slime's nutrients to gain experience. Over on Duongquin's side, he felt it too. He quickly saw a notification that Rebirth Phoenix had reached level 4 and unlocked Mycelial Arrow. She could use her mycelial threads to form a bow and arrows, and mycelial arrows could fire magic skills. He leveled up at the same time, unlocking Fungal Scout, which lets the user plant mushrooms on their mycelial network for reconnaissance, surveillance, and information gathering. He could also implant soulless fungi via this network. When Rebirth Phoenix returned, she wanted to help clean the graveyard, but the two new mushroom warriors had already finished tidying up. She handed the bullhorn to Duongquin. He nodded, praising it as not bad, better than the broken kitchen knife he got from an earlier chest and even better than Capo's axe. However, they had no craftsmen here who could forge weapons. Upon hearing that, Rebirth Phoenix suggested, "So what should we do? Do we need to go catch someone?" Yes, the newly learned skill could come in handy. An idea popped into Duongquin's head, and he used Fungal Scout to search whether any players or skeletons nearby had the craftsman's skill. His dense mycelial network quickly began scouting. The process was highly efficient, but while no craftsman was found, Duongquin detected that a player fight had recently broken out. An old man with a bushy beard was surrounded by some vicious ghoul-like creatures. It seemed they wanted to capture him to force his people to craft weapons. But the man resisted to the death rather than become a slave. He said his people had been exploited by the ghouls until exhaustion and many had died. Seeing he wouldn't comply, one ghoul raised the spear in its hand, intending to finish him off right there. And so the unfortunate man was slain. By the time the protagonist arrived, it was already too late. When Duongquin's scout mushroom reached the area, the man's body was already pinned to the rock by the spear. He snorted in irritation and muttered, "Ha, still one step too late." "What? Why can't I see anything?" Rebirth Phoenix asked nearby. She only needed to extend her mycelial thread and connect to the network to see. Rebirth Phoenix followed his instructions, and soon a small mushroom sprouted beside Duongquin's scout mushroom. That was her eye. Now she could see everything clearly. At this point, Duongquin couldn't save the living, but at least he could save the dead, albeit in a different form of existence. He then used the mycelial network to graft Blaze Fungus. At that moment, it was still busy fighting the electric fungus. Immediately, its body vanished. The grafting process went extremely smoothly. When finished, Blaze Fungus had transformed into a different form. It had become a mushroom blacksmith with fire as its main attribute, gaining additional fire resistance. Its racial traits also changed. Besides mushroom race skills, Blaze Fungus now had toxin resistance and higher physical damage. Additionally, blacksmithing skills were added, already adept at crafting and forging, now enhanced by the fire attribute, increasing crafting efficiency. A special new skill unlocked called Fiery Mycelial Strands. Through evolution, using a fire hammer woven from mycelial strands can launch fire-link connections bound by fiery threads, forming controllable fire strands. These fire strands can connect to the mycelial network to share vision and absorb accumulated nutrients in the network to boost damage. Why have I? Blaze Fungus, now carrying the blacksmith's soul, was extremely shocked. "Yes, I revived you, turning you into my mushroom warrior," Duongquin answered him through his scout mushroom and gave him the name Fire Maul. Knowing Fire Maul harbored a grudge against the ghouls, Duongquin dispatched his scout mushrooms to monitor them. They were on their way back to their stronghold, chatting loudly. "Boss, tell me, if our dwarf slaves all worked themselves to death, wouldn't that blame fall on us?" "Are you stupid?" If they all die at home from overwork, we'll just go down to the Undercity to capture more. The dwarves aren't wiped out, there must still be survivors hiding in the Undercity, replied a level 3 ghoul named Little Headman. At that moment he spotted a mushroom in the distance, not realizing it was the dwarf blacksmith he had just killed earlier. The mushroom tribe's lair wasn't here, so they assumed Fire Maul was merely an elite monster that had wandered into the area. That was an unexpected haul for them. Defeating an elite monster would surely drop good loot. So Little Headman gripped his spear tightly and hurled himself forward with all his strength. Fire Maul stood in the distance, watching the spear streak toward him but seemingly not moving at all. Only when the weapon drew very close did he take out a hammer and throw it forcefully forward. The force Fire Maul unleashed was tremendous. The hammer looked heavy yet flew fast and hard. It landed just a step from Little Headman's feet, startling him. That was close, he muttered. But before he could exhale, the hammer rose on its own. Then struck him hard, smashing his head into the ground with no chance of survival. The remaining two ghouls gaped in shock. Clearly this hammer could autolock targets. How could an elite level 3 monster possess such high-grade equipment? Their minds were blank at the sight. While they stood stunned, Fire Maul's hammer continued its grim work. The hammer, reinforced by the fire attribute, generated terrifying pressure. Moreover, Fire Maul himself joined the fight, seemingly intent on avenging the death. He fixed the hammer to a high wooden beam. Its handle connected to a strand of fiery thread. Fire Maul gripped the other end of that fiery strand, allowing him to easily move close to the ghouls and approach them from above. Seeing their foes so aggressive, the ghouls decided to fight back with everything they had. But before they could strike, they found their limbs suddenly drained of strength. It turned out they'd unknowingly been tightly bound by mycelial strands. The strands, controlled by Fire Maul, quickly ignited and dealt significant damage. Then he descended from above, delivering a crushing blow to the prey, felling another one. The last one, of course, stood no chance against Fire Maul, and was sent flying by one of his punches. While they were dying like that, Fire Maul did not rush to finish the fight. Instead, he struck down the upper wooden supports, apparently aiming to collapse the chamber. The ground began to rumble loudly. In the chaos, Fire Maul added another move, Fire Maul Ignition. His hammer burst into flames, radiating a bright golden light. The air around compressed until it exploded. The barely breathing ghoul this time couldn't catch a breath. Thus, all three were killed by Fire Maul in the most painful manner possible. After the skirmish, Fire Maul reached level 5 and comprehended a new skill called Hammer Salvage. The skill allows him to reclaim usable parts from piles of seemingly useless junk. Under the rampage of his subordinates, Duongquan also straightaway reached level 5. He unlocked a new mushroom species called Farmer Fungus. This is a dual-purpose labor mushroom that can be assigned to his subordinates to assist with daily tasks like foraging, gathering, planting, and farming. In emergencies, these farmer fungi can be armed and turned into mushroom soldiers for combat. Rebirth Phoenix also reached level 5 and gained a new skill called Progressive Mycelial Strand. With this skill, she can teleport via mycelial threads to wherever her arrows have landed. Seeing Fire Maul had finished, Duongquan praised, "Well done, I'll send you the coordinates now, come find me, okay?" Fire Maul was stunned. The leader is human, I thought all humans had. Before he could finish, Duongquan quickly explained, the form a mushroom takes after being recreated is influenced by the race it had in life. I was human before, so I naturally take a human form now. Rebirth Phoenix was human before the Archmage turned her into a mushroom, so after recreation she kept that form. By that logic, you should be similar. When Fire Maul returned, Duongquan handed him the buffalo horn Rebirth Phoenix had found and asked him to forge a few weapons for him. He took it, examined it seriously, and concluded, this buffalo horn is indeed a good material, but it still needs other components to forge, none of which seem to be here. This place is a gigantic graveyard, materials will come soon enough, Duongquan replied calmly, then tilted his head back to look up. They were underground, the cave mouth far above, looking up only showed impenetrable darkness. Fire Maul didn't know what his leader was staring at. But immediately after, an endless chaos of things rained down from the cave mouth. A small ring lay silently on the still ground. Flames burst fiercely, glowing red against the night. Fire Maul shouted, "Hammer recall." Fire Maul swung with mighty force. The enchanted iron ore trembled violently in midair. The little mushroom hurled a strange object hard into the blazing furnace. The fire suddenly flared up, surging into towering columns of fiery blaze. Forge hammer. Fire Maul waved, "Leader, the weapons are finished. Also use the scrap materials to make you some trousers and forge them too." Duongquin nodded. It looked much better than the beastman's crude axe from before. Good sword, good sword. Rebirth Phoenix quietly turned, her gaze cooling and shifting as she silently watched everything behind with unreadable vigilance. Fire Maul added, "I also sewed small magic pouches into the lining of the clothes for everyone." Duongquin smiled. "That makes retrieving weapons from the pocket much more convenient." Rebirth Phoenix asked, "Where to next?" Duongquin replied, "We break through this level." They walked and chatted cheerfully. "I've spent the past few days probing the surrounding area with the mycelial network. The Grand Cemetery is on the lowest level. If you go straight up the waste chute, there's a weekly one-way barrier that only allows descent, not ascent. But at the end of each level, there's a passage up to the next floor. So to go up, the best current method is to break through each level one by one. Besides, who would let someone snore next to their own bed?" Rebirth Phoenix suddenly asked, "Aren't we bringing Fire Maul? Another mushroom is more strength. I feel he's not only good at hitting metal, but worse at hitting people." Duongquin laughed and answered, "Someone has to guard the base. We can't clear elsewhere and come back to find the home gone. Besides, via the mycelial network sharing, when we fight monsters, he still gets experience points." Suddenly, right beneath Duongquin's feet, a flame sprang up from nowhere. He felt a sudden chill breeze sweep over him, sliding across his skin like an invisible cut that made him shiver. Unexpectedly, the ground shook violently and split in two. A stone wall abruptly rose up, separating the two of them. Duongquin raised his hand and touched the rock in front of him. Is this a mechanism hidden within a magic seal? No wonder the scouting mushrooms didn't detect it. The corner of his mouth twitched into a smirk. A wall this thick, one punch will do. Immediately his hand flared with bright red fire. Flames swirled around his fist, wrapping the mycelial strand half around it to form a fire explosion strike. The instant the fist gale hit, the wall gave a deep boom and cracked open. After throwing the punch, Duongquin instantly withdrew his power and quickly stepped back. Suddenly, right before his eyes, a blazing circular sigil appeared. The fiery aura spun as if inscribing an ancient, mysterious formation. Duongquin was surprised. This mechanism wall is reinforced with a magic array too. Breaking through it now isn't feasible. It will have to split up and go different ways. He immediately turned back, movements decisive but cautious, his eyes scanning the darkness behind him. Looking at the slimy corridor, Duongquin thought to himself, after being separated, even the terrain has changed. In the pitch-black cave, tiny points of light suddenly appeared, scattered like countless eyes gradually opening in the dark. In an instant, Duongquin grew alert. He narrowed his eyes, watching every movement in the gloomy space ahead. A host of snails crawled toward him. It turned out this was a snail nest system, electric snail group level 3. One snail saw Duongquin and shouted, "I recognize you. You are the one who killed our brothers in the Grand Cemetery." It began to gather all its strength, the aura around it compressing. "Take him down." Then a volley of light streaked toward him, tearing space at horrendous speed, hammering down like unavoidable storm rain. More lightning. A massive bolt of thunder suddenly ripped the sky and struck the ground, exploding on impact. Two snails gaped and said, "It's handled, we got revenge right." Before anyone could react, one snail was knocked out in an instant, causing the one beside it to gape in fear. The sword in Duongquin's hand suddenly brimmed with lightning, streaks of electricity crazily dancing around the blade. The snails were terrified. Too fast, everyone switched to shellless mode, increased speed. One snail lunged angrily. "I'll show you the terror of the shellless clan." Suddenly its body froze, red threads appearing from nowhere. They were mycelial strands. Duongquin immediately leapt forward, delivering a powerful blow that left it no time to react and quickly defeated it. He thrust the sword forward forcefully, and the mycelial strand burst into flame. Suddenly, a massive explosion erupted, red flames surging violently, blinding light instantly filling the space. At that moment, the door unexpectedly lit up, veins of light flashing in succession. The space was now awash in blazing red fire. Everywhere was left a wasteland of ruin. Duongquin stepped forward and said, "This must be the boss's chamber, right?" His gaze halted and he asked in confusion, "Why is it empty?" Suddenly, a strange sensation rose from beneath his feet, as if something was slowly moving under the cracked earth. He straightened up at once, his eyes growing cold and fully alert as he slowly looked down at his feet. With no warning, a snail shell slammed down from above, spun lightly, and lay motionless in the unusually silent air. Duongquin immediately stepped back, decisively widening the distance, his eyes never leaving the newly appeared object, the snail shell. Suddenly, the seemingly harmless shell accelerated like an arrow and charged straight at him, colliding with terrifying force. Duongquin reacted at once, turning his sword horizontally to block the oncoming ram with overwhelming force. The ground suddenly shook violently as if yanked by an invisible force, earth and stone split and were torn from the surface. The protagonist had to leap into the air to avoid the impact. Suddenly, a stream of crimson light appeared on his hand, dim at first then quickly flaring up like awakening flames. Immediately, grotesque red threads poured from the void, as if with a will of their own, rapidly wrapping around and gripping the giant snail shell. Without hesitation, Duongquin concentrated all his strength and unleashed a wind-rending critical strike, mycelial lightning conduit. At that moment, a cataclysmic explosion erupted, blinding light sweeping across the space and shockwaves rippling outward in all directions. Within the choking dust, a vague silhouette gradually emerged, standing silently amid the chaos as if stepped out of the blast. From the dissipating dust, a gigantic figure slowly strode out. System, Snail King Level 5. Duongquin curled a lip, his eyes bright with interest, and said, "There's a Phase 2, interesting." On the ground were drawings of the two mushroom stalks before they took human form, Duongquin's and Rebirth Phoenix's. She was squatting on the ground, doodling with an arrow. Rebirth Phoenix turned her head slightly and thought, "After the wall opened, there are no monsters on my side. The leader is probably getting split experience from the small monsters and is now fighting the boss fiercely. I really want to go help." Unlike the peaceful scene where Rebirth Phoenix sat, loud clashing sounds rang out on the other side. Duongquin was locked in fierce combat with the Snail King. The two were evenly matched. A gleam lit Duongquin's eyes as his whole body surged with fighting spirit. Duongquin moved nimbly, continuously and skillfully wielding the sword in his hand. His blade slashed across the Snail King, but it managed to dodge in time. Then the Snail King arched its body and retreated into its shell. It sprang up, rolled through the air, and suddenly water shot out from inside. Strong jets of water spewed from 4 directions within the shell, which spun like a top. Duongquin murmured, "Water element magic." 2 streams of red light burst from his shoulders and latched onto an outcrop above. Duongquin was pulled up into the air, avoiding the spray of water. From above he looked down and silently assessed, not sure what that spray does but better avoid it for now. Suddenly, the mycelial strand attached to the outcrop was disturbed by something. Duongquin looked up in astonishment and alarm. The mycelial strand had been pulled free. Losing its anchor, Duongquin plummeted straight into the water. It seemed something was approaching, shadows moving very fast. It attacked Duongquin, but he quickly managed to block. However, very soon Duongquin realized the problem. His eyes widened as his whole body fell downward. He glanced quickly. Is the water surface really this slippery? You can't stand on it at all. Is the cave ceiling also covered in this slick slime? No wonder the mycelial strand just came loose. The Snail King leapt up and said arrogantly, "This is my territory, you have no chance of winning." It and Duongquin clashed again. With a swing of its shell, it knocked the protagonist's weapon away. Then the Snail King slid back into its shell and used the hard shell to batter him. Duongquin looked at the shell but still couldn't find an opening to counterattack. A loud noise echoed as a jet of water blasted against the rock wall. The Snail King sneered at Duongquin, who was sitting propped against the rock after the blow. I see your mycelial strand. Are you a mushroom person? You actually dream of competing with our snails for the bottom ecology position." But Duongqun didn't respond, only his hand began to glow pink. The Snail King's face was bathed in that light. He ground his teeth in panic. A pink dome of light burst from Duongqun, sending the Snail King flying backward. Mycelial strands threaded across the water and rushed toward the Snail King. A large explosion occurred where he stood, but he had prepared and took no damage. Duongqun was extremely surprised. He clenched his teeth. The Snail King laughed triumphantly. "You've used this move before. You think I'll fall for it again, trying to use water's conductivity to attack me? I told you this is my home turf. If I can change how slippery the water is, of course I can increase its resistance and weaken your electric strike." Duongqun was not provoked. He stood up again, his body covered in glowing pink strands. "You do have some water tricks, but as the proverb says, dodging well isn't as good as standing your ground." At that, the Snail King trembled all over. He hurriedly looked down and saw the surface around his feet crawling with pink mycelial strands. Only then did he realize in shock, since when was the water covered with mycelial strands? Did I just step right into the trap you set? The Snail King didn't panic at falling into the trap. He stuck to his boast. "It's fine. I told you I can change the water's resistance to weaken your electric attacks." Duongqun ignored his words and waved his hand resolutely. "I'm stubbornly not buying that. Burn." The Snail King raised a taunting claw. "You haven't seen the coffin yet and already shed tears." Before he could finish, his body flared into a massive blaze. He screamed miserably as a tornado of fire with terrifying power erupted around him. When the fire tornado ended, the space was pitch black and filled with ashes. Before Duongqun lay a pair of charred blackened legs. The Snail King's body was burned by fire and was fading away. He still didn't understand why the attack had suddenly turned into a fire strike. Before being carried away by the wind, he managed to curse Duongqun for cheating. Duongqun was now covered in glowing pink mycelial strands. System continuously updating stats and privileges upon leveling up. He put a hand on his hip, looked at the scene, and said, "There's a rotten smell under these rocks I've never smelled before. Summon Fire Maul to check it out." A loud sound reverberated through the rubble. Fire Maul appeared. He seemed a bit unaccustomed to the smell here. A strange smell rose from that unusually dark black pile of rocks. Duongqun looked at what Fire Maul was holding and asked quickly, "What is that?" He explained. "Black humus stone, a mass formed from the combination of magical refuse and organic humus accumulated over many years." Duongqun felt a little disappointed. It sounded like it wasn't anything valuable. Trash plus trash is still trash. No ordinary metallurgist or blacksmith would value this, right? Fire Maul agreed that was true. But he continued, "That was before. Now, having become a mushroom, this stuff is actually good for me." Fire Maul then used his power. "The trace magical residues here are hard to extract, but for me now, spirit infuse and extract mycelial fibers." Saying that, he easily crushed the rock. Fire Maul smiled gently, "As easy as turning my hand." System residue separation complete. Acquired arcane silver fragment. He held his hand out for Duongqun to see. To Duongqun's surprise, Fire Maul added, "Look, with luck you might even refine an epic tier mana shard. Materials of this quality are very valuable to players." Duongqun pulled out a magnifying glass from somewhere and peered. "But isn't this too small? Feels like it won't make much of anything." Fire Maul pointed and said, "Isn't there still a pile over there? Give me some time, maybe I can dig out more from below." Duongqun nodded. "Fine, leave this pile to you." Fire Maul proceeded to separate residues from a large pile of black humus stone. System acquired arcane silver fragment. Seeing the unstable cave, Duongqun warned, "Hey, dig all you want, but don't collapse the whole cavern." Fire Maul replied, "Not my problem." But from a place the two couldn't see, a long black thing with a gaping mouth lunged out of the cave. Farmer Fungus, brimming with ferocity and red-eyed, shouted, "Kill, kill, kill." But his stubby legs were immediately yanked from the ground by someone, leaving him no time to react. Duongqun grabbed Farmer Fungus and scolded, "Where are you going? Fighting and killing aren't your turn right now. Stay and do chores for Fire Mall. Duongquin turned to Rebirth Phoenix. Type PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3NG. You go. Yes, leader, Rebirth Phoenix replied. Duongquin added, the new generation mushroom troops have been merged into the mycelial network. You can command them anytime. Over on the other side, loud noises echoed in the dark cavern. A mushroom stood there, the Scout Mushroom. Scout Mushroom opened its eyes wide and reported, Report, the enemy is about to break through the roof of the Black Hearthstone Mound. Duongquin received the report and ordered, We can't let it in, divert its attention and pull the battlefield out into the corridor. Scout Mushroom looked at the enemy with the gaping maw ahead and without fear answered, Understood. Then Scout Mushroom swayed its whole body and produced strange sounds. The huge mouth and its sharp teeth did not slow but charged even faster. Its long, blackened body coiled and shot forward at high speed. Duongquin asked Fire Mall in puzzlement, What kind of insect is that? It seems to have a clear target and is charging straight this way. He answered while working, From the sounds, it's probably a black carrion eater. They have an innate frenzy for organic humus, competing for the same ecological niche, even stronger than the snail clan. But I'll make the fight a bit simpler, wait until I'm done. On this side, Rebirth Phoenix was using her sword to attack the black carrion, slashing it painfully. The black carrion swiveled and opened its huge mouth to attack Rebirth Phoenix, but she quickly dodged. System Rage Meter Full. Rebirth Phoenix nimbly leapt to the ground, putting distance between herself and the black carrion. Seeing its jet black, rigid hide only superficially wounded. Rebirth Phoenix looked down at her sword with some helplessness. The hide was too tough, the leader's blade had already been nicked. A mushroom appeared on Rebirth Phoenix's shoulder and said to her, Fire Mall says the new gear he forged for you is ready. It's being downloaded directly from the mycelial network. The whole mushroom trembled. Rebirth Phoenix took it down and touched it. System downloading equipment data, 6%, 86%. The black carrion quickly recovered and hurled itself forward crazily. System download complete. Special equipment acquired, arcane silver arrow. The eerie magical arrow now rested in Rebirth Phoenix's hand. She raised her bow and calmly faced the black carrion's red-rimmed, gaping maw. Rebirth Phoenix resolutely drew her bow and unleashed her skill, Breaker's Fury. Whoosh, the arrow flew straight into the black carrion's throat, sliding deep without encountering any obstruction. Immediately after, Rebirth Phoenix bent and launched herself far from the ground to evade the creature's frenzied charge. Once inside the black carrion, the arcane silver arrow immediately spawned countless parasitic mushrooms. Those mushrooms triggered a chain reaction of self-detonations. The monstrous body glowed brilliantly with the myriad fungal sprouts within. Boom! A catastrophic explosion hurled the black carrion apart into countless fragments. Rebirth Phoenix landed lightly and calmly surveyed the devastation. The charred remains and numerous sparkling arcane silver fragments rained down like showers. The Scout Mushroom on her shoulder trembled and warned, Don't let your guard down, there's more. Rebirth Phoenix, surprised, asked, There's more? The Scout Mushroom replied at once, The distant reconnaissance network just detected another black carrion frantically heading this way. But Rebirth Phoenix was panting now, her limbs trembling. The Scout Mushroom immediately realized, Is your stamina nearly depleted? Move quickly, convert the monster's corpse into organic humus to heal. Meanwhile, use the newly raised mushroom troops to temporarily hold it back. No sooner had it spoken than a circular sigil appeared on the ground, and numerous mycelial strands crawled out. System, bomber mushroom units are being deployed to the battlefield. Seeing the two bomber mushrooms lumbering forward, Rebirth Phoenix frowned and asked, Only two, maximum roster is 6, it's full, the Scout Mushroom explained. Rebirth Phoenix immediately calculated and hurriedly asked, Excluding the implanted electro and flame mushrooms, the current lineup is the leader Fire Mall Me, 1 work mushroom and 2 bomber mushrooms. That's 6. If you count yourself, doesn't that exceed the roster? The Scout Mushroom hovering above was startled and nervously explained, I'm not taking a slot. I'm just a fragment of the mycelial network spirit, like an off-roster mushroom. Opposite them, although its rear had been blasted apart in the previous attack, the second black carrion's head clenched its jaws and barreled madly toward Rebirth Phoenix. The scout mushroom wondered, why is this one clamping its mouth shut like that, afraid of being attacked from inside the throat? To prevent the creature from reaching Rebirth Phoenix, the two bomber mushrooms advanced calmly, showing no fear. One bomber mushroom swung the greatsword in its hands with such force that the gust cleaved through chunks of rock. Boom! A shattering explosion struck the black carrion again. It howled in agony and was blasted backward. Not giving the enemy a chance to recover, the mushroom soldier gripped his sword's haft, leapt straight into the air, and delivered a vertical downward strike right into the creature's mid-back. The two mushroom soldiers coordinated smoothly, taking turns pressuring and tearing up the opponent's hard carapace. After sustaining the assault, the massive black carrion was knocked onto its back, completely losing any footing to counterattack. Rebirth Phoenix watched from a distance and whispered in admiration, "Are these new mushroom troops strength-focused? One sword swing can send a giant black carrion flying like that." After finishing the suppression, the two mushroom soldiers scampered up to the monster's head. One jumped onto the top of the black carrion's head and drove its great blade down, prying open the tightly shut jaws as wide as possible. The other mushroom soldier quickly took a run-up, using his comrade as a springboard to launch himself deep into the enemy's throat, activating his skill, self-exploding flying blade. Whoosh! Boom! A horrific explosion detonated inside the creature's gullet, smoke and flames billowing and clouding a corner of the cavern. System: Black Carrion eliminated, experience increased and new rank privileges unlocked. Rebirth Phoenix said in surprise, "These new mushroom troops not only have excellent individual combat ability but also remarkable coordination." The scout mushroom replied, "How could mindless mushroom troops fight so fluidly on their own?" Rebirth Phoenix, still puzzled, asked, "What do you mean?" The scout mushroom glanced at her and explained, "Of course they're being controlled by the leader through the mycelial network." Sure enough, a mycelial strand extended from the dark cavern outwards. Inside, Duongquin sat on a log and leisurely said, "Pretty interesting. Controlling mushroom troops to fight feels a lot like playing a game." Through the scout mushroom, Duongquin ordered Rebirth Phoenix, "Clean up the battlefield. Bring back anything useful for Fire Maul to see if it can be made into gear." She responded, "Understood." Rebirth Phoenix used the mycelial strands to gather the debris on the ground. The strand touched the puddle of slime on the ground and quickly absorbed it all. System: Corpse of the Black Carrion has been absorbed and decomposed. New privileges updated. Rebirth Phoenix picked up a fang from the ground and said, "This fang is real. It survived several explosions without damage. It would make a great weapon for Fire Maul." While she wasn't paying attention, strange gusts of wind began appearing in the cavern. These gusts slipped into the massive holes the black carrion had dug and carried on until they reached a strange black figure. This person was a lower floor administrator, Death 10. He looked on puzzled. Strange, none of the monsters on the lowest floor responded, yet two higher-level black carrions were sent down. How did it end so quickly? He was about to step closer. "This isn't right, I should go see personally." But then he changed his mind. "How odd, some newbie made a little money, why risk myself?" Peering down from above, Death 10 muttered, "After all, they're just a bunch of rookies." Death 10 raised his hand and called out loudly, "Who among you wants to become a player?" The two nameless monsters were utterly surprised. "We bacterial monsters can become players? We thought we'd be stuck unlucky down here forever." Death 10 raised his hand. "In this dungeon, aren't all identities granted by me?" Then he opened his ledger and raised his hand. System: Player rights unlocked for the bacteria race. Immediately, countless dark shapes leapt into that gigantic pit. Death 10 lifted his hand to the sky and shouted, "Go! If you can clear the bugs below, the entire lower region, including the black foo stone you love most, will be yours." The nameless monsters were thrilled. Their tribe's rise or fall depended on this. The bacterial monsters swept in as a pack, now bearing player identities. The small monster said, "Boss, there haven't been any bugs this week. We haven't even seen a hair." Suddenly they passed by a treasure chest. The little bacterial monster dashed over, secretly screaming inside. A treasure chest. After so much bad luck, finally a chest to open, not sharing a single coin with the other bacteria. It pounced on the chest, eager to open it. At last the lid popped open. But suddenly a hand shot out from inside. That hand hauled the little bacterial monster entirely into the chest. Clack, the chest slammed shut and everything returned to silence. Another bacterial monster, its body wrapped in mycelial strands, was walking along. When it was suddenly lifted out of the crowd by some force. The bacterial monster beside it turned in bewilderment. And then it too was pulled away. Its whole body was bound tight by mycelial strands and yanked into the darkness. It cried out and clung to the ground, leaving long claw marks, but still couldn't resist. The other bacterial monsters turned at the noise in puzzlement. One asked its companion, "Weren't there more people who came down with us? Where are the other bacteria?" Whoosh. One monster standing there was suddenly struck in the head by something. An arrow pierced through its skull. The larger bacterial monster turned and shouted, "Who's there?" From above, a dark figure stood there with a drawn bow. Info: Milan Mushroom Archer Level 7. The girl said timidly, "I am sorry." Rebirth Phoenix standing nearby scolded, "Foolish, why apologize to the enemy?" But Milan kept drawing her bow and whispering, "Sorry." Rebirth Phoenix sighed inwardly at that, such a vicious black carrion, yet a mushroom raised on a corpse could have such a personality. On this side, Milan muttered another apology as she began to raise her bow again. She released a sunlit arrow straight toward the horde of bacterial monsters. But this one managed to catch the arrow with its hand. Sneering, "Stupid mushroom, you think I'm useless." Suddenly a shout rang out, "Arrow split, sever all." The arrow in her hand automatically split into countless beams of light, striking the surrounding monsters. The red bacterial monster beside them was impaled through the chest. The leader turned to look at his two young underlings. He pointed at Milan and shouted, "Our bacteria race has survived through the harshest conditions for millions of years. Do you think a few ordinary physical strikes can defeat the elite bacteria under my command?" Milan calmly raised her hand. "To exterminate bacteria, you need high temperatures." A massive energy flowed from her hand into the ground, transmitting through the mycelial strands toward the bacteria. The high heat traveled through the arrow, flaring up inside their bodies. Boom! A huge explosion occurred, and in an instant everything was incinerated to ash. Seeing this, Milan jumped up cheering happily. "Amazing, born and already won your first battle." Rebirth Phoenix scolded from behind, "Idiot, confirm the kill first. If they're not dead, finish them, then celebrate." Milan obediently replied, "Yes." But at that moment, Rebirth Phoenix seemed to have noticed something. Even Milan was extremely surprised. She opened her eyes wide at something advancing with terrifying force. "What's about to happen?" The Bacteria King curled his lips slightly, so this was a player's privilege. He clenched his fist, eyes full of excitement. "Not only can I leave my domain and act freely, I can also break through my own limits." The Bacteria King stood above, his cold gaze quietly fixed on Rebirth Phoenix. She immediately turned and instructed Milan, "You can't match this monster, fall back a bit and provide ranged support." Milan hung her head guiltily. "Yes, sorry for causing you more trouble." Then the Bacteria King transformed into a shadow and hurtled down toward Rebirth Phoenix at an incredible speed. Boom! He landed with immense force. The shock cracked the ground in two. Rebirth Phoenix reacted instantly, drawing her bow and firing a storm of arrows. However, the Bacteria King easily intercepted the entire assault. Just as an arrow was about to pierce his eye, the Bacteria King swung his hand violently and knocked the arrow aside. He looked at Rebirth Phoenix, a sneer lifting his lips, "Too weak." Milan stood at a distance, eyes wide in astonishment. "My explosive arrow was stopped." Rebirth Phoenix looked ahead, unnaturally calm. Making him turn his head is enough. No sooner had she finished speaking than she drew her bow taut and decisively fired 3 arrows in succession. The Bacteria King laughed arrogantly. "Fainted from my might already, only these 3 ordinary arrows." But immediately afterward, the Bacteria King suddenly began to tremble. He flinched and frowned, looking back. The arrow tails are connected to mycelial strands. The 3 arrows were fixed into the ground in 3 different directions, their rears tightly linked by pink mycelial strands. The bacteria king laughed coldly in contempt. Just a few strands of fungus, I can snap them with a little force. Crack, crack! Before he could exert force, a high-voltage current ran through the mycelial strands and jolted him violently. He screamed in panic, It's snapping. Rebirth Phoenix coldly glanced at the bacteria king, her expression utterly unshaken. Continuous electric shocks made his body convulse violently, then collapse to the ground. She immediately ordered the mushroom soldier beside her, quickly finish him off, cut off his head. The mushroom soldier hurried forward, raising his sword to deliver the killing blow. Suddenly a cold flash of a blade swept by. The mushroom soldier's sword began to tremble violently and then froze right at the virus king's throat. Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG and Milan both widened their eyes. She thought in shock, why didn't the mushroom guard cut down? Why is he just standing there? From beneath the ground, the virus king suddenly opened his eyes and laughed a horrific, mad laugh. When I was electrocuted down to my last breath, I began infecting these fungal threads. It turns out you were all connected to the same mycelial network. He curled his lips maliciously. So that stupid fool was infected by me before he swung his sword. Now he no longer obeys you. If you like weaving nets so much, then all of you take the infection together. The bacteria immediately spread along the fungal threads, rapidly surging straight toward Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG. Swarms of bacteria rushed madly forward, covering the space before them. Yang Jun's voice sounded urgently over the network. Everyone disconnect from the network. Go offline now, I'll be there right away. Without hesitation, Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG and Milan immediately severed the fungal network connection for the whole team. But immediately after, Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG cried out in shock as she collapsed. What's still infected? System warning, critical, severely infected with virus. Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG's whole body trembled as she fell to the cold ground. Milan suffered the same fate. The virus king grinned wickedly and lunged. Can't move anymore, can you? Did you think cutting the network was enough? My bacteria can spread through the air too. Bam! Suddenly a terrifying kick slammed into the virus king's face, sending him flying backward at high speed. Yang Jun appeared like a lightning bolt, launching a hook kick that sent him soaring into the air. Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG bowed her head remorsefully. Leader, sorry I took the hit. Yang Jun replied calmly, I don't blame you, my intel was lacking. Get the others to retreat first, leave the rest to me. The virus king hung suspended in the air, then pulled his head out from the layer of earth and rock on the cavern ceiling. He snorted lightly, glaring at Yang Jun. So you are there later. No sooner had he finished speaking than he exploded forward in speed, charging at Yang Jun and delivering a downward hammer-like kick. Wham! Yang Jun raised his hand to block the kick. System, one subordinate has left the battlefield, all attributes plus 10%. Yang Jun immediately spun to counterattack, the sword in his hand creating sharp slashes that tore through the air. A look of surprise flickered across his face when the virus king nevertheless managed to block the strike. System, another subordinate has left the battlefield, all attributes plus 10%. Receiving the power boost, Yang Jun clenched his fist, his momentum erupting. He delivered a 1,000-weight punch that sent the virus king flying far away. The virus king thought in horror, why are this guy's punches getting heavier and heavier? Allowing no respite for his enemy, Yang Jun burst forward at top speed and unleashed a barrage of rapid punches like a storm onto the virus king. Yang Jun thought to himself, don't stop the assault, keep attacking until the system declares him defeated. Suddenly, a poisonous current spread through his body, making his eyes snap wide open. Yang Jun staggered to his knees, blood welling at the corner of his mouth and flowing in a steady dark stream. The Virus King sneered coldly. You really don't know when to stop. The closer you fight me, the faster my infection spreads to you. He stepped forward slowly. You truly showed no mercy, almost cut me down. But fortunately, my parasitic bacteria were already present among the bacteria on you. The Virus King curled his lips with satisfaction. Parasitic bacteria, heal. He slowly marshaled his power, then suddenly shouted, Begin, it's my turn to counterattack. The terrifying aura around them shook violently, causing Yang Jun to widen his eyes. The Virus King grinned with murderous intent and threw a powerful punch at him. Yang Jun immediately plunged his blade into the ground to force his body to halt. The Virus King's gaze was icy, full of deadly intent. Then he exploded with speed, launching himself straight up into the air. In the blink of an eye, he appeared right behind him, startling Yang Jun. The Virus King barked in a cold voice and unleashed a flurry of strikes. Fa Thuong Fong Kai Dao. The sharp slash immediately tore the air and hurtled toward Yang Jun's back. He roared on, Taan Han Kan Khu letter 1EA9 and Kai Dao. Mao B letter 1EA3 O Kan Khu letter 1EA9 and Kai Dao. Yang Jun was knocked back by the shockwave, his whole body flung violently away. The Virus King slowly raised his hand, concentrating all his power into the final blow. He erupted with murderous intent and charged at Yang Jun, wildly screaming, still stubbornly resisting, If you don't want an easy death, I'd rather have my bacteria torment you to death. Yang Jun's eyes grew cold as he frowned in confusion and asked, Bacteria, what bacteria? The Virus King suddenly widened his eyes in shock. The bacterial patches on Yang Jun had completely vanished. He leaped forward in anger, his face incredulous. This is absurd. System, all subordinates have withdrawn from the battlefield, all attributes plus 60%. System, limited shared combat skill unlocked. Black ring hide, grants a tough skin like the black insect but with limited durability. After taking physical damage exceeding 50% HP, the skin will break and then recombine. During recombination, black ring hide cannot be used. Yang Jun immediately raised his hand, powerfully blocking the incoming attack. He quickly shoved the Virus King back and shouted, It's antibiotics, kid. The Virus King froze, a look of astonishment flickering across his face as he blurted, Antibiotics. Yang Jun's blade swung down forcefully toward his opponent with full might. The sharp slash tore the air and sliced into the Virus King's shoulder, making his whole body tremble violently as muscle spasms convulsed unnaturally. He summoned his strength to pull the Virus King closer, saying coldly, Come here. A strong force yanked his body with a jolt, dragging him back up close to Yang Jun. One day earlier, inside the Great Righteous Burial Grounds, Yang Jun pondered, Antibiotics. Hu Chui explained slowly, Yes, in these rotten black stones there's still a small residue of antibiotics used against bacteria. They're the leftover sediment from metallurgical vials that high-level players casually discarded, which gradually seeped into the black stones. Yang Jun replied calmly, What others throw away I pick up, useless to them but priceless to me. Extract some more, it'll definitely come in handy later. Hu Chui nodded, All right. System, enhanced antibiotics have been transmitted into the target's body. Yang Jun coldly launched his final counterattack, his voice full of killing intent, Antibiotic strike. Boom! The Virus King was immediately slammed back by the shockwave, hurled far from his original position. His body tore through multiple rock walls in succession, creating thunderous explosions. After he was flung away, the dense dust and smoke began to gradually dissipate. The Virus King's entire body quickly cracked and ruptured, chunks of flesh continuously exploding. He howled, It's just pathetic physical attacks, as long as my bacteria keep regenerating. But then the Virus King's hands split open and crumbled into fragments. He cried out in panic, What? The bacteria's reproduction is being suppressed. Immediately after, the Virus King's entire face began to crack and peel off at high speed. His body shook violently and suddenly exploded into countless debris. System, Virus King defeated. You and your subordinates have risen to level 8. System, new privileges and skills unlocked. Antibacterial race. Fungus race gains 30% bacterial resistance. Mushroom decoy. Activate a spore to rapidly grow into a replica of yourself. No combat strength, easily destroyed but can distract enemies. High-level enemies have a good chance to see through it. Berserk Fungus, upgraded from Berserk Beastman. Use fungal threads to pierce veins, increasing combat power by 30% for a short time. Net Arrow, Mushroom Archer fires a fungal thread arrow that expands into a net, trapping targets and pinning them to adhesive surfaces. The mushrooms under the ground rapidly grew, spreading across the surrounding area. Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG looked at them and said happily, "Leader, these mushrooms are growing so well." He nodded and explained, "Yes, after extracting all useful materials, the decayed residue of black stone is extremely suitable for cultivating mushrooms." From afar, Huo Chui loudly called everyone, "Time to eat. System, transfiguration state has been dispelled." Yang Jun smiled and said, "Everyone expended a lot in this battle, so today I'm treating you to a special staff meal to replenish." Milan tilted her head curiously and asked, "Leader, what's a staff meal?" He paused, thinking, almost forgot staff meal is from my world, it's normal she wouldn't understand. Yang Jun chuckled and explained, "A staff meal is a free meal provided by the unit to its employees." Huo Chui brought over a bowl of food and nodded, "I know this, the meal has mushrooms and the mushrooms are the staff, so it's called a staff meal." Milan nodded in understanding, "So that's it." Yang Jun looked at the two of them and sighed helplessly, "You really broaden people's horizons." In the distance, Death Number 10 quietly gazed down at the void. His eyes full of thought, he stood silently, coldly observing the entire scene around the pit, then gave a slight faint smile. "It seems these bacterial monsters have failed. Time to find the next set of sacrificial shields." But immediately after, a strange sensation suddenly arose, causing him to freeze. Death Number 10 frowned in confusion. "This feeling, why does it resemble the corpse-eating black insect? But didn't I already deal with all the ones I released?" Roar! In the distance, a blinding flash suddenly lit up amid the dense, oppressive mist. A gigantic creature lunged up from the abyss below at breathtaking speed. "System, your pet has appeared. Info, ancient earth shield fungus, cultivated from the corpse of a corpse-eating black insect. This is a colossal construction mushroom that can drill and crush a mountainside and break down rubble to absorb useful materials or be deployed on the battlefield to deal with heavy units. Note, high cultivation requirements and long nurturing time, use with caution." Death Number 10 screamed in horror, "This isn't my great black insect, what on earth is that?" On the other side, Yang Jun stood coldly looking down and replied with a question. "You're the one who's been funneling players into my territory, aren't you?" Hearing that, Death immediately realized, "So you're that bug." Death drew out his spellbook, gathering a powerful magical current in his hand with confidence. "Perfect timing, I'll handle this bug personally." Administrator Outbreak delete account in a fit of rage. From the magic circle before him, Death unleashed a terrifying blast of energy. To counter it, Yang Jun immediately activated his spinning defensive technique. The magical bombardment couldn't penetrate the spinning defense and had to disperse to both sides. Death exclaimed in astonishment, "What? I'm being suppressed." At that moment, a violent strike from the giant tentacle of the ancient earth shield fungus suddenly slammed down where he stood. Death nimbly leapt backward to evade. The spellbook in his hand continuing to glow, he thought, "I didn't expect this bug to grow this strong in just a few days. This is no longer something I can handle alone. I need to request higher authority." Just as he was about to activate a transmission, Yang Jun suddenly appeared at his side and snatched the book from Death's hand. "Give it here." Death turned with a stunned expression, then panicked and thrust out his hand, shouting, "Give it back." But what he received in return was a full-force kick squarely to the face, generously delivered by Yang Jun. Boom! The kick drove Death face-first into the hard stone ground. He lay there moaning miserably, his face cracking and peeling in fragments. Yang Jun opened the book and murmured, "This book is very important to you. What kind of book is it?" Death was still speechless. "I won't tell you anything, not unless you guarantee you won't kill me." Yang Jun sneered, "Isn't it written right here? Why do you need to tell me?" On the page, shimmering letters read, "Lower-level administrator privilege book." Death's face shifted into extreme panic. He hurriedly transformed into a shadow and shot away. Yang Jun stood there leisurely and asked, "Still want to run?" Death strained his flight while calculating. If the privilege book is gone, it's gone. If I can escape, I'll bring the main forces back to wipe out your entire fungus race. But he had already fallen into a prearranged line of sight. A straight strike from above smashed down, shattering earth and stone. Death screamed in pain. He realized he had walked into an ambush. Milan gripped the energy tether in her hand, aiming it straight at Death's head. Then activated her ultimate, Ignite. Death cried out in panic, "Wait, I can negotiate." But before he could finish, a towering pillar of flames swallowed the entire space around him. Milan slid down from above with her greatsword. Standing before the blazing fire, Milan froze, recalling the unfinished line. "Leader, sorry I acted too quickly. I think he said he could negotiate." Yang Jun waved it off. "It's fine. Whether a low-level admin confesses or not doesn't matter. At least we have this privilege book." Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG stepped forward, puzzled. "What does this book do?" Yang Jun explained. "It can view the movement trajectories of monsters and players within a limited range and can kick violating players out of the dungeon. Most importantly, it can assign player identity to certain NPCs. Once given player identity, they can leave the restricted activity area, open chests, mine." Hearing this, Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG concluded, "Then we can finally leave the old territory and move upward. We're players too." Yang Jun smiled and waved. No, the book lists us as bugs." Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG's eyes widened in surprise. In other words, as long as this bug exists, higher-level admins will keep sending players down to fix it. At that moment, a red urgent notice appeared on the book. Warning, higher-level administrator requests communication link. Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG worried. "What do we do now? If we accept the call, won't we be exposed?" Yang Jun laughed. "Afraid of what? Accept it." From the book, the projected image of a higher-ranking Death appeared. On the other side, he furrowed his brow, probing, "You." Surprisingly, the one on the call was still Death number 10. "Why did it take you so long to answer the video call?" Yang Jun, disguised by fungal threads as Death number 10, grinned and replied, "I just finished dealing with a small bug reported earlier, so I'm a bit delayed." The higher admin sneered. "It took you that long to handle a ragged bug? You'll always belong to the lowest tier. Remember to change the bug's status to handled when you return." Death Yang Jun scratched his head awkwardly. "Understood. Any further instructions?" The admin sounded slightly surprised. "You've improved this time. EVEN Chinese letter a SKING extra. Before you'd avoid work and not say a word. Actually, there's something. I found anomalies on the third layer from the bottom. Go handle it." After saying that, the other side immediately hung up. Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG looked at Yang Jun in amazement. "I didn't expect the fungal thread disguise to actually fool him. So do we go there now?" Yang Jun replied, "Not yet. He considers me cannon fodder. First, spread the fungal thread network over there to scout the situation." Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG suddenly jolted and looked around. "Wait, where's Milan?" Yang Jun checked the network and frowned. "She's not detected in the fungal thread network either. She's offline." He placed a hand to his comms and contacted the Scout Mushroom. "Scout Mushroom, where are you? Do you see Milan?" The Scout Mushroom responded immediately. "I'm at the end of this level. Leader, you should come see this." The two quickly followed the directions to the rendezvous point. Yang Jun looked up at the scene and asked, "Milan disappeared here?" The Scout Mushroom nodded and reported, "Yes, I tracked her spores all the way, then they suddenly vanished. The higher we spread the fungal thread network, the more the connections were severed. Look, this giant tree root has been gnawed to pieces, a complete mess of wounds." Yang Jun looked at the gnawed marks on the root, pondering, using wood as food, could it be? He immediately frowned and concluded, "Termites." Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG nodded, her expression turning serious. "Now we have to go to the third layer from the bottom." Yang Jun, a little anxious, said, "We can't hesitate. I'll go up there right away to rescue Milan." But Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG hurriedly stopped him. You mustn't go, this is completely different from before. Previously we spread the fungal thread network first, gathered full intel, and then acted. But this time, the fungal thread network can't be spread, so we can't collect intelligence. Going up now would be like blindly charging into the enemy's lair. You're the leader and our trump card. If even you fall into the enemy camp, we'll have no way out. She insisted, let me go this time. When the time is right, I'll transmit the intel out. Yang Jun pondered, then nodded and instructed, then you must absolutely prioritize safety. I'm always ready to provide support. Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG smiled reassuringly. Don't worry. She drew the fungal arrow taut, preparing to depart, then hesitated. Leader, isn't launching a fungal arrow straight up a bit flashy? Won't they notice? Yang Jun replied calmly. Relax, white termites are basically blind. He added, but considering that termites have other extremely sensitive sensory organs, once you're up there, do this. Scene shifts to layer 3. A worker termite crawling through the root area discovered something unusual. It hurriedly brought its 2 antennae closer and lightly touched the strange pink mass. The worker termite startled, realizing the pink mass was actually a mushroom. Info: the pheromone communication signals of the termite tribe have been automatically translated by the system. Other worker termites crawling by gathered around, enviously chattering, damn it, why did this guy get so lucky? How did he find such a brand new mushroom? Now he'll go boast, and from now on he'll lord it over us. Meanwhile, Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG, perfectly disguised as a curled-up mushroom, thought to herself, the leader really plans like a god. After I fire the arrow up here, I don't even need to sneak in. A worker termite will come take me away. She tried to stealthily spread a tiny fungal thread outward to probe. But the moment they sensed the energy flow from the thread, the worker termites rushed in and began frantically licking it, as if they'd found a delicacy. Seeing the writhing mass behind her, Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG jumped and understood. All right, now I get why Milan completely lost contact. At the termite soldier area, the worker termite gleefully carried Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG deeper into the cultivation area and tossed her into a massive feeding pit. It turned and bowed its head to report to the guarding termite soldier. Honored soldier, this is a new mushroom I just found. Please watch it closely. When we cultivate more, I'll personally bring the best portion to gift you. In the feeding pit, Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG lifted her head from the pile of wood pulp mixed with sawdust. She looked around and wondered, the smell of wood chips mixed with spores. Is this the mushroom farm that the white termites cultivate? Suddenly, a voice sounded right beside her, making her startle. No need to worry too much. Behind Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG stood a large white mushroom. Noticing her confusion, the mushroom gently reassured her. Worker termites only eat spores. For mushrooms that have become sentient like us, they're not particularly interested. By the way, my name is Xiao Tung. Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG hurriedly asked, hello, I'm looking for a little mushroom girl, red cap with black spots, wearing black among that pink crowd. Have you seen her? Xiao Tung shook his head. I haven't seen her. Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG tried to describe more precisely. She's the mushroom girl who always looks apologetic, bewildered, a bit dumb, and keeps saying sorry. These details made Xiao Tung startle, as if remembering something. Ah, is it her? She's a high-quality sentient mushroom. She's already been taken to present to the termite king and queen. Hearing that, Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG sprang up and climbed out of the pit. Xiao Tung cried after her in alarm, where are you going? She looked back and answered, I'm going to find that little mushroom. Aren't you coming? Didn't you just say sentient mushrooms eventually get offered to the termite king and queen? Sooner or later you'll be eaten too. Xiao Tung sighed and shook his head. I'm not going anywhere. At least here I can live a little longer. If I dare venture outside, the termite soldiers will surely kill me on the spot. Swish, slap! No sooner had he finished speaking than the head of a large termite soldier was severed from above, landing with a thud right before Xiao Tung. Above the cavern, the sounds of blades slicing through air and horrific screams rang out. Xiao Tung's hand trembled as he clung to the pit edge and slowly poked his head out to look. His face now was the picture of astonishment. Seeing the entire force of termite soldiers guarding the mushroom garden wiped out in an instant, Xiao Tung exclaimed, "I didn't expect they could clear all the termite soldiers around the mushroom garden. What on earth kind of mushroom is she?" At a deep chasm on a higher level, an elite squad of termite soldiers hovered on guard. One stepped up to where Milan was tied and, voice cold, said, "It's time, we must offer you to the termite king." Before it could touch Milan, the elite soldier froze, realizing the termite soldier behind it had collapsed. It cried out in alarm, "What's happening over there?" Before anyone could understand what was happening, Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG appeared beside them like a phantom. Without hesitation, she plunged her dagger straight into its head, then swung her sword and severed the creature's neck. Milan saw Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG and cried out joyfully, "Captain, you came to save me." Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG quickly used her dagger to cut Milan's bindings. Milan rubbed her wrists, moved, and said emotionally, "Thank you, Captain." Bop! Before she could finish, Milan got a sharp, painful tap on the head from Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG. She scolded lightly, "Idiot, how could you let the enemy capture you so easily? We'll settle this when we're out." With that, the two immediately slipped through the nook tunnels of the termite nest. Milan ran behind, worrying, "How do we get out? There are so many termite soldiers along the way." Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG replied, "The leader will come to support us." But then Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG suddenly startled and slammed on the brakes. "Wait." Milan, running behind, couldn't slow in time and crashed into Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG's back. She peered over and asked, "What's wrong?" Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG furrowed her brow, eyes full of vigilance. "There's a heavy killing intent ahead, very likely an ambush." Right at the mouth of the tunnel they were about to enter, a crushing pressure curled in the darkness, the hiding spot for an ambush by a whole squad of elite worker termites. Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG and Milan faced an extremely dangerous trap. A group of termite soldiers lay in ambush. One of them ordered its comrades to tear the woman's body apart the moment she appeared. Soon they detected something approaching. Milan stepped forward, disguised as a mushroom. The termite soldier was utterly bewildered. Instead of the hair-bundled attacker, a strange species of mushroom appeared. It wondered if its intelligence was wrong. Suddenly, the little mushroom hurled a rock and shouted, "Flying rock, super damage." The rock struck the termite square in the face. A silence fell over the entire tunnel. The termite soldier exploded with rage. Furious that such a mocker dared smash it with a rock, it lunged straight at her. It ordered the whole swarm to swarm out and tear the intruder apart. The swarm immediately gave chase. Meanwhile, Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG watched the whole development. She declared that the decoy mushrooms had successfully lured the ambushing termite soldiers away. Once the path was cleared, she quickly led Milan down another tunnel. Milan worried the rendezvous point was still too far. Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG reassured her they were almost there, explaining the leader was using a tunneling mushroom to open an escape route. However, she warned they couldn't get too close yet or they'd alert the swarm. Suddenly, a massive boulder crashed down right in front of Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG. She recognized it instantly and shouted a warning for Milan to be careful. Before Milan could react, Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG seized her and hurled her backward. A gigantic termite soldier burst out from the tunnel it had just dug. A brilliant burst of energy erupted as the two collided head-on. Milan cried out in terror. Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG told her not to worry and ordered her to retreat according to plan. Holding back tears, Milan apologized and ran forward. She promised to carry out the withdrawal mission exactly as arranged. Sparks flew as the battle grew more intense. Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3, NG kept her eyes fixed on her opponent. Just before a crushing blow landed, she sprang backward. She landed gracefully, now standing directly opposite the termite captain. The captain praised Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG for surviving his strike but mocked that Milan would never escape since another ambush lay in wait along her path. Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG was inwardly astonished that the captain could speak the common tongue. She immediately realized it had evolved. She pointed out that the enemy had concentrated all their heavy forces on the opposite route. That meant the smaller force on Milan's path stood no chance of stopping her. Fungal thread energy flared around her weapon. She raised her bow with absolute confidence that Milan would get away. The captain frowned, puzzled why she was targeting his own mushrooms. Without hesitation, she loosed a powerful arrow. Meanwhile, Milan kept running. The glowing arrow suddenly sped past her. She recalled what Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG had said earlier. Milan had asked how to lure hidden enemies out if they fell into an ambush. Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG had simply replied that they only needed to exploit the enemy's instincts. Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG had reminded her that termites couldn't resist gnawing fungal threads. The glowing arrow plunged into the ground before detonating a brilliant surge of energy. Her plan was simple: lure them out and let them feast to their heart's content. The arrow released a large amount of fungal threads. The hidden termite swarm immediately darted out of their hiding place. One soldier rushed toward the pile of fragrant threads, but another quickly warned that it could be a bait set by enemy fungi and urged everyone not to let greed blind them. The first termite admitted that made sense, but then suddenly asked where the rest of the swarm had gone. The termites drawn by the threads had completely lost their reason to hunger. A starving soldier grabbed a worker termite and demanded to be fed immediately. Another became furious seeing someone had eaten first without sharing. Unable to resist any longer, the remaining soldier termites abandoned all caution and demanded the worker feed them. A nearby worker immediately stepped forward to feed them. While all the soldier termites were utterly distracted by the feast, Milan quietly slipped behind them. Chaos erupted as the swarm fought and clashed over the food. Seeing his troops descend into utter chaos, the termite captain froze in shock. He glared at Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG and angrily cursed at her. He charged at Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG, declaring her actions unforgivable. Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG dodged swiftly and fired an arrow at him. The arrow struck the captain's armor but immediately bounced off. The captain sneered at Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG, saying her direct attacks would never break through his defenses. Unless she could pierce a gap in his armor from behind, she had no chance to win. Suddenly, Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG vanished. The captain's eyes widened in shock. Using the skill Thread Dash, she appeared right behind him. Her arrow blazed with fierce fungal thread energy. She drew her bow and unleashed a volley of consecutive arrows. Sensing the incoming attack, the captain turned to block and deflect the arrows. However, he quickly realized that while a single arrow couldn't pierce his armor, 3 consecutive hits to the same spot would cause a material change. Then another arrow lodged hard into his torso. The captain snapped the arrow in two and arrogantly declared his armor was not mere decoration. Breaking his defense would never be that easy. Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG gathered her strength, preparing for the final strike. The captain jeered, believing she was only flailing desperately in vain. Then his smile vanished. A glowing blade of energy suddenly manifested. Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG activated Thread Dash. The energy blade lunged straight for the crack that had formed in the captain's armor. Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG looked down at the defeated termite captain. Suddenly she felt a violent shockwave and immediately leapt far away. From a safe distance, she watched a massive figure slowly step out of the smoke. The monster acknowledged her strength for having felled the termite captain and thrown its forces into utter chaos. As it fully emerged from the smoke, its identity was finally revealed. It was the Snapjaw, commander of the Termite Legion. In a fury, the Legion commander ordered the retreating forces to return to the battlefield. Then it slammed the ground with overwhelming force, creating a devastating whirlwind. Type PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG looked into the distance. The next instant, a massive swarm of termites lunged out to ambush her. Raising her bow, Type PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG activated the skill Web of Threads and fired a glowing arrow. The arrow struck the commander's head and detonated into a radiant net of fungal threads. The net wrapped tightly around the swarm and yanked them backward. Wasting no time, Type PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG activated the skill Incinerate. The Snapjaw soldier sneered, warning her not to dream of activating skills through fungal threads. Then it sliced the net apart. Immediately, it countered with the move Vertical Jaw Lash. Type PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG blocked the strike. But the compression was so intense the ground beneath her feet shattered. She leapt back at once and launched a counterattack. In the blink of an eye, she appeared right behind the Snapjaw soldier. But the commander arrogantly boasted of his terrifying agility and easily deflected her strike. Type PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG's hands trembled. She was stunned by his speed, almost losing her grip on the blade. The monster surged again, diving down from above. Type PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG parried the crushing blow, but she hadn't expected his strength to be so overwhelming. The impact sent her skidding and tumbling backward across the ground. A terrifying purple pressure wave erupted around the Snapjaw. He mocked her, declaring she would never withstand his ultimate move. Seeing the commander's stance, Type PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG suddenly recalled what Yang Jun had said. Our protagonist had explained there is a type of termite capable of clamping its two jaws tightly together. Type PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG had then asked what would happen afterward. Yang Jun explained that once the two jaws snap past each other, they release a tremendous amount of elastic potential energy. She watched the Snapjaw's jaws slowly move into position. Then he unleashed the skill Jaw Impact. The brutal strike hurled Type PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG high into the air. She slammed into the cave wall in a massive explosion, then fell freely to the ground. The Snapjaw leaped down in pursuit, whipping up a blinding dust storm. It charged forward at horrifying speed. Another arrow was loosed, but only harmlessly glanced off his armor. The commander mocked, repeating how many times he needed to say that arrows couldn't pierce his defenses, no matter how many she fired. Type PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG's body trembled. The commander sarcastically praised her determination and suicidal bravery. He declared that after tearing her apart, he would present her head to the queen as a keepsake. Then he ordered the Termite Legion to attack. The swarm immediately surged forward to surround Type PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG. A soldier termite closed in on her. Suddenly, a system notification appeared. She had successfully reconnected to the fungal thread network. At that moment, something unexpected happened. A mushroom warrior slammed onto the battlefield, crushing a soldier termite underfoot. The Snapjaw soldier froze in shock. The surrounding swarm immediately surged at the newcomer. Then another mushroom leapt onto the field. Both swept through the ranks of soldier termites. The Snapjaw stared in utter astonishment. He couldn't fathom how mushroom reinforcements had bypassed the termite forces and slipped into the defensive ring without triggering any pheromone alarms. Now that the network connection had been restored, Type PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG called out to ask if Yang Jun was there. Our young man replied that he was still clearing the remaining forces on the outer ring. He explained that thanks to Type PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG's effort in helping Milan escape, they had gathered extremely important intelligence while offline. To deal with the termites' heavy armor, he had asked Firehammer to forge a batch of blunt impact weapons and extended the fungal thread network across the entire termite nest. Yang Jun added that he would immediately sink his experience points to her. He explained that combined with everything she had already accumulated, this would be enough for her to level up. Our MC also reminded her to check the new gear Firehammer had forged specifically for her. The system immediately began sinking experience points. A brilliant stream of fungal thread energy enveloped Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1EE3 NG. The nearby mushrooms watched the aura grow ever brighter. A system notification then appeared. The mushroom race had successfully advanced to level 9. Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1EE3 NG stood before everyone as swirling energy coiled around her. Then she stepped forward wearing an entirely new set of gear. The system announced she had downloaded the Capskirt flying armor, integrated with her tough black skin to provide even greater defense. The armor also allows her to spray spores backward while moving, activating a short burst called Capskirt acceleration. However, this skill consumes active spores and requires time to recharge once depleted. Additionally, she downloaded armor-piercing arrows forged from reinforced materials, granting superior piercing power along with the skill Meteor Nail Impact. This skill lets her use Thread Dash to teleport instantly to an enemy struck by an armor-piercing arrow, trigger Capskirt acceleration to reach top speed, and use the Cap Hat Hammer to drive the arrow's tail deep into the enemy's body. Finally, she downloaded the Cap Hat Hammer, a weapon specially designed for nailing. A mushroom slammed the weapon into the termite's head and severed it. The termite collapsed to the ground. A few more termites were quickly dispatched. A Snapjaw soldier taunted Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1EE3 NG, saying she needed to gang up because she couldn't beat him one-on-one. Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1EE3 NG pointed out that just 3 mushroom guards had taken down over 20 soldier termites, yet he still called it ganging up. In a fury, the termite lunged at her, shouting that hiding behind the mushroom guards wouldn't save her from death. The mushroom swung its weapon. The termite nimbly ducked to avoid the blow. It sprang backward. The 2 mushrooms immediately gave chase. Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1EE3 NG raised her bow. The termite grumbled that she was being stubborn. She loosed an arrow. The termite roared that her attack was useless. But it was wrong, the arrow hit its mark. The impact sent the termite flying, smashing repeatedly against the cavern walls. As the smoke slowly cleared, the termite staggered to its feet. It stared wide-eyed in shock and confusion. It couldn't understand why that arrow had suddenly pierced its toughest head armor. Fortunately for it, the arrow hadn't been driven in too deep. It brushed the dirt off its body, then discovered the arrowhead was lodged firmly in its head. Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1EE3 NG activated Capskirt acceleration. The termite admitted she was fast, but believed she had erred by choosing close combat. Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1EE3 NG executed Meteor Nail Impact, while the termite countered with Jaw Impact. Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1EE3 NG drove the arrowhead even deeper into the termite's skull. The collision released explosive shockwaves behind the termite. A massive crater was blasted into the cavern wall. The termite's head cracked. Seconds later, it collapsed. The system announced that the Snapjaw termite had been defeated. Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1EE3 NG suddenly realized someone was nearby. Yang Jun, in mushroom form, applauded and praised Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1EE3 NG for ending the battle beautifully. He smiled and said she was truly getting stronger. She asked why he had turned back into a mushroom. Yang Jun replied that he felt a bit tired in human form, so he decided to change the mood a little. Suddenly, a loud noise echoed through the cavern. Yang Jun explained that the mushroom troops were finishing off the remaining soldiers and were approaching the queen's chamber. Pyro Shroom incinerated a termite's head in flames. Vault Shroom decapitated another termite in an instant. Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1EE3 NG asked if Pyro Shroom and Vault Shroom were temporary summons. Yang Jun nodded, explaining that as long as he preserved their previous spores, he could replant them when his level was higher. With a few extra cultivation slots for mushroom troops, he had brought both back. The remaining termites were quickly felled. But suddenly Yang Jun sensed an overwhelming murderous aura. A voice roared from the darkness declaring this their final stop. Many termites stepped out of the shadows. They revealed themselves as General White Wing, Deputy General T letter 1EF1B letter 1EA10, and a subordinate general. A termite warned them that the royal area lay just ahead, and any intruders would be eliminated without mercy. Yang Jun warned everyone to remain vigilant. One termite raised its hand and slammed its two fists together. The moment our MC saw that stance, he recognized it as nearly identical to the opening stance of the Snapjaw Legion commander Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG had fought earlier. Another termite launched a rubber poison bomb. Yang Jun immediately activated the fungal thread barrier. The net unfurled like a protective wall, catching the poison bomb before it could reach the mushroom troops. The bomb detonated inside the net. The mushroom soldiers remained standing unmoved. A blinding light swallowed the entire cavern. Thick smoke quickly filled the space. Fortunately, Yang Jun managed to pull one mushroom guard out of the danger zone. Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG and the others escaped unharmed. Yang Jun frowned. He had only managed to save one mushroom guard. Although the fungal thread barrier halted the bomb's trajectory, the burst of highly corrosive poison from the explosion immediately took down the other two mushroom guards. Yang Jun realized that while they had high physical defense armor, their toxin resistance was extremely low. He waited for the smoke on the opposite side to clear. Suddenly, a termite dashed through the smoke and charged straight at them. General White Wing swung his arm with terrifying force. Yang Jun braced himself and took the blow. The strike shattered the ground to pieces. He declared he had slain one and was ready to attack the next target. But Yang Jun remained standing after absorbing the full hit. Suddenly, a powerful hand grabbed General White Wing's arm mid-swing. It was Firehammer. General White Wing froze as his fast strike was intercepted. He snarled, asking who that mushroom was. Firehammer calmly replied that he was merely a blacksmith. Then he told Yang Jun to go straight to the Queen's chamber and leave the enemies to them. Yang Jun gave a thumbs up to agree and handed the situation over to them. He immediately sprinted off without looking back. General White Wing doubted whether that short mushroom was truly their leader. Firehammer warned him to shut his mouth and threatened to strip his shell to make a shield. Confidently, Yang Jun entrusted the battle to Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG and Firehammer as he advanced toward the Queen. Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG accepted the order. Firehammer blocked the strike of the Snapjaw Legion commander. Then his powerful hammer blow slammed straight into the commander's armor. The armor began to erode. Firehammer's attack targeted the weak hip plates of his armor. The commander wondered if the mushroom could share combat data among allies like the termite swarm did. Firehammer observed the opponent's movements and concluded he was clumsy, his body stiffening after each jaw strike. Hitting him would be easy. Suddenly, a flying object whistled through the air. A sticky substance splattered all over his legs. He realized it was adhesive goo. Firehammer looked around, searching for its origin. He spotted another termite in the distance. General White Wing asked where he was looking before immediately unleashing a massive, crushing blow. Firehammer panicked. The brutal strike slammed into the ground, sending him flying backward. A cloud of dust exploded from the impact. The remaining termite, a Suobai vice general, mocked the mushroom, declaring they were only good at bullying weak remnants and had now revealed their true nature in a high-level battle. It taunted Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG, saying her short leader had abandoned her here to die. Pinned down by the adhesive, Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG merely snorted coldly. Suddenly, a brilliant pink energy burst outward, cracking the trap. The Suobai vice general watched in shock as the fungal thread rapidly decomposed his adhesive. He warned her not to dream of escaping before firing another sticky orb. Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG explained that fungi love to consume adhesives rich in organic compounds. With an explosion of fungal thread energy, she completely freed herself from the restraint. She then rushed at him with an arrow in hand. With no time to draw her bow, she launched the giant arrow like a spear. The Suobai vice general realized the explosive arrow had shattered his sticky bomb. The goo splattered onto the fungal thread net, forming an upgraded sticky trap that bound him tight. The Suobai vice general couldn't believe the mushroom had turned his trick against him. Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG activated tangled step of fungal threads. She pointed out that, as it turned out, he wasn't immune to his own skills. The Suobai vice general panicked. A massive impact made the ground tremble. A mushroom guard slammed his hammer down with terrifying force, forcing the Suobai vice general to stagger backward. Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG shouted to all the mushrooms, revealing that the termite swarm wasn't immune to their own skills. That meant if Deputy General T letter 1EF1B letter 1EA10 threw a bomb at close range, he'd blow himself up too. She urged everyone to push him into melee. Pyro Shroom and Spark Shroom cheered as they gathered energy. A wave of energy swept across the battlefield. A towering wall of fire erupted on one side, while crackling electricity spread across the ground on the other. Deputy General T letter 1EF1B letter 1EA10 looked up as a fungal thread lightning net sealed the cavern ceiling. Surrounded by blazing firewalls, he realized the mushrooms were forcing him to fight in confined space. He cursed the mushrooms' cunning. Meanwhile, General Whitewing looked down. He realized the mushroom had used a mushroom effigy as a decoy to fake death. A small mushroom bomb detonated at his feet. General Whitewing noticed the bomb glowing. The bomb exploded violently. The blast hurled General Whitewing before he crashed to the ground. The badly wounded general was furious. He taunted Firehammer for his burly build while relying on junk gear, demanding an upfront, honorable armored duel. Firehammer replied from the smoke, reminding him that he was just a blacksmith. General Whitewing was bewildered. Suddenly, a massive weapon tore through the dust. General Whitewing laughed gleefully, thrilled that he had finally lured Firehammer into melee. He quickly took a stance. A long black gun slammed into his arm, shattering his defense. Shocked, he angrily asked whether this could still be called melee. The gun absurdly extended all the way to his face. At the other end stood Firehammer, wielding his improbably long, red-cap mushroom cannon. Firehammer asked whether shoving the cannon barrel in someone's face counted as melee. General Whitewing curled his lip in mockery, certain he could easily dodge such a clumsy weapon. He immediately tried to slip away. However, his body wouldn't move. General Whitewing was bewildered, unable to understand why he couldn't command his limbs. He looked down and saw small mushrooms driven into his legs. He cursed Firehammer as an annoying little mushroom. Firehammer primed the cannon and declared that being a blacksmith meant owning countless gear items. He pointed the huge barrel straight at him. Staring at the barrel about to fire, General Whitewing realized it was over. A brutal explosion detonated, obliterating him with a horrendous blast. Thick smoke and debris filled the air as dust slowly settled. A system announcement confirmed General Whitewing had been eliminated. The shattered fragments of the general's shell lay motionless on the ground. Meanwhile, a rain of sharp arrows whipped through the air. The arrows collided with bombs, triggering a massive explosion. The Suobai vice general realized high-density adhesive bombs were the only way to temporarily stop Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG's explosive arrows. His wounds were severe. Still, he resolved to give his all to the battle. He unleashed a series of high-speed adhesive bombs. The adhesive bombs detonated in rapid succession. Tai PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG countered the assault by continuously activating fungal thread dash. She quickly weaved through the battlefield, dodging the rain of bombs. Suddenly, a strip of adhesive stuck fast to her back. The Suobai vice general had finally caught her. He angrily swung his arm and roared that he would smash her to pieces. Type PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG was violently dragged along by his lightning-fast movements. He slammed her into the ground with tremendous force. Then he hurled her through the dust and smoke. The Suobai vice-general snapped the adhesive strip and ordered her to fly back here. He dragged her fiercely across the cavern ceiling. The sweeping strike carved a long groove in the rock. He celebrated landing a devastating blow. But then he realized he was only holding onto her gear. Suddenly he noticed something amiss. Our Type PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG was already at full draw. As energy gathered around the arrow, the Suobai vice-general realized his mistake. She released, firing an armor-piercing arrow. The powerful shot struck him squarely in the head. Giving him no chance to recover, she immediately followed with the move Meteor Nail. A system announcement sounded confirming the Suobai vice-general had been eliminated. His head was reduced to nothing. Type PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG noticed one of his severed limbs. She thought it looked like it might be useful. Meanwhile, Deputy General T letter 1EF1B letter 1EA10 was violently clashing with a mushroom guard using his two giant arms. The mushroom guard swung his weapon, parrying the Deputy General's rapid slashes. The Deputy General realized how troublesome the mushroom swarm was. He had assumed the mushrooms believed he wouldn't fight up close, but they had underestimated him. For the Queen Termite, he was willing to sacrifice himself. He roared for everyone to die together. Green energy flared around his body as he activated the giant self-destruct process. Suddenly, a voice called all the mushroom soldiers. Yang Jun ordered them to immediately dismantle the lightning net and firewall and withdraw beyond the blast radius. The entire team quickly dispersed across the battlefield. The Deputy General mocked them for fleeing at the first scare. He raised his hand and boasted that now he could bomb them without a trace of worry. Suddenly he froze in confusion. His arm had been glued to the ground by the Suobai vice-general's adhesive. He couldn't understand how the glue had appeared here. Their pheromones spread, revealing that Bond PH letter 1E5 had been defeated. The Deputy General realized Type PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG was the one who had thrown the glue. More sticky substance rained down on his head. Type PH letter 1B0 letter 1E3 NG held Bond PH letter 1E5's severed limb and fired a series of adhesive shots at the Deputy General. Completely trapped, he could not break free. He panicked because once the poisonous bomb was triggered, it couldn't be deactivated. A large green explosion erupted. A system announcement confirmed Deputy General T letter 1EF1B letter 1EA10 had been eliminated. Deep in the cavern, Yang Jun finally reached the Queen Termite's lair. He observed the cocoon. In confusion, he wondered where the Queen Termite was. Suddenly, a dark arm tore through the cocoon as purple fluid splattered everywhere. A thin, termite-shaped figure stepped out of the cocoon. It was the Queen Termite, the fungus devourer Kara's. The Queen Termite unleashed a mighty surge of energy from her body. Yang Jun felt an overwhelming pressure bearing down on him. Dust swept across the entire area. In the end, everything in that space was flung away. Yang Jun was shocked to see she had absorbed all the eggs into her belly. He couldn't believe she would sacrifice her offspring without hesitation. She replied that without her brood, those young ones would be useless. She insisted that becoming part of her to protect the Queen Termite was the greatest honor they could receive. She demanded to know why the Mushroom Clan had provoked the termite tribe. Didn't he know the termites were addicted to eating mushrooms? Yang Jun knew she could sync with her subordinates via their pheromones, so he assumed she already knew the reason. One of her subordinates had kidnapped their little mushroom boy. She replied that none of her subordinates had eyes, so she didn't know which one he was talking about. Yang Jun was left utterly speechless. She asserted that it didn't matter, for she would simply use him to enrich her menu. With that, she lunged at him. Yang Jun was astonished by her extraordinary speed. She launched a crushing kick at him. The brutal attack triggered a large explosion. Yang Jun leapt high and landed right behind her. The rocks around her feet began to levitate. She immediately hurled those rocks at him. Yang Jun's hands moved at wind-tearing speed as he smashed each boulder to pieces. He called this attack the Mushroom Flurry. Dust and smoke engulfed the entire area. Suddenly, a spherical object flew straight toward the Queen Termite. She drew her sword and sliced at the incoming object. Yang Jun suddenly materialized, clinging to it. He swung it and slammed it into her, but she blocked the blow with both her swords. The tremendous force cracked the ground beneath her feet. She hadn't expected such brute power from a clumsy-looking mushroom head. Energy crackled around Yang Jun's body. He activated Toxic Shock, releasing electromagnetic energy from the implanted spark shroom spores and instantly paralyzing his foe. She cursed at him. The force of his strike slammed her into the ground. She could not move. Yang Jun prepared to follow up with several more hammer blows. Suddenly, she unleashed another burst of energy. The energy immediately immobilized Yang Jun. It spread over a wide area. Even Tai PH letter 1B0, letter 1E3, NG, and Firehammer had to falter. A mighty barrier formed around the area. Firehammer stared at it in surprise and confusion. He pointed the cannon directly at the barrier. Tai PH letter 1B0, letter 1E3, NG asked if he was sure he could break it since the barrier looked extremely sturdy. Firehammer replied that if one shot wasn't enough, he'd fire a few more. He urged her to let him try since they had nothing to lose. He fired, triggering a large explosion. They watched the barrier closely. Tai PH letter 1B0, letter 1E3, NG brimmed with hope after seeing the impact, but the attack didn't leave a scratch on the barrier. On the contrary, it left Firehammer distraught because the cannon's breech had been blown apart. Given the situation, Tai PH letter 1B0, letter 1E3, NG knew the mushroom troops could no longer help. Yang Jun was trapped alone inside and had to rely on himself. Back to our protagonist, Yang Jun was thrown backward. He realized all his movements had slowed inside the barrier. It felt as if he were trapped in a giant vat of adhesive. The Queen Termite had activated the Viscous Cage skill. This ability isolates everything inside the barrier from the outside world. It reduces movement speed, projectiles, arrows, spells, and all other attacks of enemies trapped inside by 30%. Yang Jun sensed something behind him. Instinctively, he tried to block. The Queen Termite grabbed his hand and mocked him for moving so slowly. She punched him repeatedly. A rain of blows hammered every part of his body. The final strike sent him crashing to the ground. She immediately lunged at him once more. But suddenly an explosion erupted. The blast distracted her. She flipped through the air to dodge the blazing attack. She realized he had used a wide area fire attack, but even the flames moved in slow motion. She boasted that her barrier was an overpowered skill, capable of slowing even spells. Yang Jun warned her not to celebrate yet because he knew exactly how to deal with her. He had found a weakness in her barrier. Our young man discarded the mushroom body and finally transformed into an entirely new form. The Queen Termite was stunned to discover a deadly flaw in her barrier. Yang Jun dashed straight through her. Then he hammered a thunderous punch into her back. With no subordinates nearby, his passive Lone Sovereign activated, greatly boosting his combat power, sending her skidding across the ground. The Queen Termite mocked him for attacking before he finished speaking, calling him a cunning mushroom. However, she quickly realized the barrier hadn't slowed him at all. In fact, he was moving even faster. She activated the Twin Clamp Mandibles skill, turning both hands into giant pincers. Her pincers rapidly extended, then she whipped them around with terrifying destructive force. The moment she found the perfect angle, she slammed them down and unleashed Heaven-Cleaving Mandible. But Yang Jun was ready. He counterattacked with Fungal Thread Flame Fist. The giant mandible burst into fierce flames. The collision carved a massive dent into the cavern wall. The Queen Termite was shaken. She finally realized Yang Jun's flames had completely burned away the adhesive aerosol particles along his path. That's why he could sprint over the scorched ground and completely ignore the barrier's slow effect. Yang Jun activated Twin Hammers, Firecap Horns, and charged straight at her. She quickly leapt backward before his strike could land. Yang Jun sneered mockingly and asked whether he was really the one being slowed when she was the one constantly retreating. His taunt instantly infuriated her. She shouted for him not to underestimate her. She was the Queen Termite. The battlefield descended into utter chaos, both charged at breakneck speed as explosions kept erupting. A small mushroom stood watching outside the barrier. Their movements were so fast it could only see streaks of light between the blasts. It asked the chieftain whether they should rush in to help. The chieftain replied that the mushroom and termite swarms were slaughtering each other while mushroom-termite hybrids benefited. Therefore, folding their arms and watching was the best choice. The small mushroom pointed out they escaped the termite prison because that mushroom had attacked the termite forces. However, the chieftain waved that off, saying the young termite still didn't understand that chaos is a rung on the ladder. Back in the battle, the protagonist again blocked a powerful attack from the Queen Termite. Meanwhile, the Queen Termite realized Yang Jun had burned away most of the adhesive aerosol inside the barrier, leaving his movements unhindered. However, she didn't notice the static electricity crawling up her arm. A massive electric shock tore through her body. It sent her flying and she slammed to the ground. But before she hit the floor, Yang Jun unleashed a brutal kick. The force hurled her straight into the ceiling. Blood spurted from her mouth. She declared that wounding her so severely was unforgivable. Then she activated the suppressive cage. Yang Jun realized a cage was forming around him. To his astonishment, the slow effect returned, and it was far stronger than before. The system notified him that the suppressive cage had formed, slowing his movements by up to 99%. The Queen Termite laughed loudly, declaring that he was now completely under her control. Yang Jun finally understood. The Queen Termite had gathered all the adhesive aerosol particles inside the barrier into one point. By compressing them around him to the absolute limit, she created a crushing slow effect. Still, being slowed by 99% didn't mean he couldn't move. The Queen Termite sneered, asking whether he could keep up with her finishing blow at that speed. She unleashed the skill Queen's Finale, Great Self-Destruction. The giant termite crawled up a stone pillar, then charged straight at him. Yang Jun knew dodging a self-destruction at such close range was nearly impossible. He had to move faster. The termite's body began to crack. Yang Jun forced his arm to move faster. A blinding light swallowed the entire area, followed by a massive explosion. Eventually, the blast subsided. The Queen Termite wondered whether Yang Jun was dead. Her sensory tendrils detected no sign of life below. But what she saw next froze her in place. Yang Jun was still alive. He revealed that even if his punching speed was reduced to 1%, it was still fast enough to strike before the giant termite detonated. He had also launched a massive fireball to negate the shockwave from the self-destruction. Yang Jun declared that both sides had essentially used up their tricks. It was time to decide the outcome with a single strike. The Queen Termite replied that a direct clash of single decisive blows was precisely what she wanted. Yang Jun unleashed the move Single Hat Bullet Fist, while she countered with Maelstrom Drill Mandible.